XLM will be extremely valuable, and only 1% of the world knows this. While the world's distracted by meme coins, celebrity endorsements, and pump-and-dump nonsense, Stellar's quietly laying the foundation for something far bigger and way more real. XLM isn't chasing trends. It's not trying to be flashy. It's becoming infrastructure. And the craziest part? Only a fraction of the world understands what's happening here. Everyone's too busy watching what's loud, what's volatile, and what's trending on Twitter. Meanwhile, the real builders, the ones creating systems that will power digital finance for decades, are making moves in silence. And that's exactly where Stellar lives. Under the radar, behind the scenes, engineering the future of money. This isn't about speculation. It's about utility. It's not about hype. It's about who's actually solving trillion-dollar problems while everyone else plays musical chairs with meme coins. Most retail investors don't even realize that Stellar is already integrated into legacy banking rails, already powering cross-border remittances, and already providing on-chain smart contract infrastructure tailor-made for institutions. While the mainstream is distracted by dog coins and influencer tweets, Stellar's checking every box required to become the backbone of compliant, global digital finance. And the craziest part? The price hasn't even caught up to the progress. So today, we're going deep into what makes XLM extremely valuable, and why the 1% who actually get it aren't waiting for headlines. They're accumulating, building, and setting up for the moment the rest of the world finally wakes up. Because when that flip switches, it's not going to be a slow crawl, it's going to be a supply shock. Hit that subscribe button if you're not here for hype. You're here for facts, fundamentals, and foresight. Let's get into it. The institutional backbone no one sees coming. This is the part of the story nobody's talking about. Institutional infrastructure. Stellar isn't out here trying to ride the latest crypto narrative or spark a hype cycle. It's not chasing the next bull run. It's laying the digital railroad tracks under the financial world we're about to step into. It's easy to miss because Stellar doesn't scream for attention. It's not flooding your feed with influencers or celebrity partnerships. What it is doing is securing serious, regulated, legacy finance partnerships, the kind that don't play games. Let's start with Franklin Templeton. We're talking about a $1.5 trillion asset manager that could have used Ethereum, Solana, or Avalanche to tokenize their funds, but they chose Stellar. Why? Because Stellar doesn't need to fake decentralization with Layer 2 hacks and gas fee calculators. It just works. It's fast, cost-efficient, and built with compliance in mind. That decision alone should have made headlines across crypto Twitter, but barely anyone noticed. Now zoom out to MoneyGram. They didn't just slap USDC on an app and call it innovation. They integrated Stellar into their global remittance rails. That means someone in Ghana, the Philippines, or Mexico can send or receive stablecoins like USDC on-chain, with cash pickup at over 300,000 locations in more than 100 countries. That's not a white paper. That's not beta. That's live. That's scale. And then there's Palago Labs, an institutional DeFi platform leveraging Stellar's Soroban smart contracts to tokenize trade finance. If you've never heard of tokenized trade finance, here's the alpha. It's a trillion-dollar market that's been begging for disruption. Stellar didn't just theorize it, they're doing it. Palago is building financial tooling for actual businesses, not yield farmers. This is DeFi without the chaos, without the casino, and without the regulatory headaches. Soroban, Stellar's smart contract engine, is optimized not for Deegan speculation but for real-world use. It's built to satisfy compliance-first institutions who have to play by the rules. Stellar understands that if you want to be the backbone of global finance, you don't fight regulation, you build around it. This is infrastructure most retail investors have no clue about. And yet, it's live. It's growing. And here's the kicker, it requires XLM to function. Not as a random utility token thrown in for speculation. Not as a governance bribe. But as the native gas token for Soroban smart contracts, as a bridge asset for cross-border payments, and as a reserve asset for on-chain liquidity. Every time someone interacts with these systems, whether that's tokenizing a fund, executing a trade finance smart contract, or sending USDC via MoneyGram Stellar rails, XLM plays a role under the hood. This isn't a testnet future. It's a hidden layer of infrastructure already in motion. And it's exactly why the 1% are watching Stellar like hawks while the rest of the world chases noise. XLM utility is hard-coded, not hype-driven. Let's talk tokenomics. And this is where 99% of people are completely asleep at the wheel. XLM isn't some speculative token slapped on top of a blockchain just to make it tradable. It's not a governance bribe or a temporary farm reward. It's baked into the architecture of the entire Stellar network. You can't use Stellar without using XLM. Period. Want to open a wallet? You need to lock up a minimum balance of XLM. Want to issue your own asset or stablecoin on Stellar? That operation requires XLM. Want to send a transaction? XLM covers the fee. Want to establish a trust line between two assets? Again, it costs XLM. This isn't optional. It's not cosmetic. It's structural. And that's what separates Stellar from 99% of the chains out there that rely on hype cycles and tokenomic gimmicks to stay alive. Stellar doesn't need to convince you to stake your XLM or promise APY percentages pulled out of thin air. The value proposition is simple. If the network grows, the demand for XLM grows. Not maybe, not hopefully, inevitably. Now let's talk scale. On Stellar, transaction fees are fractions of a cent by design. This makes it ideal for cross-border remittances, micropayments, and high-frequency institutional usage. But here's what most people miss. When you start adding up millions of users, billions in asset issuance, and thousands of regulated use cases across borders, even tiny fees create massive XLM velocity. And since those fees are paid in XLM, it creates a constant, inescapable flow of utility-based demand. No burn gimmicks, no gas wars, no artificial scarcity games. Just baked-in, fundamental utility that compounds as adoption scales. Compare that to other chains where tokens are optional, speculative, or straight-up inflationary. A lot of networks have utility tokens in name only. They're not required. They're just nice to have. On Stellar, XLM is non-negotiable. It's the fuel, the access key, and the liquidity bridge all in one. And let's not forget, Soroban, Stellar's smart contract layer, also uses XLM for execution fees. That means as smart contract usage ramps up, especially with institutional DeFi via platforms like Palago Labs, the demand for XLM doesn't just increase. It accelerates. It scales with every line of code executed. And because Stellar isn't inflating its supply endlessly like some chains, that demand starts to press against fixed supply limits. That's where you start to get real market pressure, when utility meets scarcity. So ask yourself this, when the network is designed to grow quietly behind the scenes, and XLM is the required fuel for everything on-chain, what happens when the world catches on? That's not a hype narrative. That's math. And it's exactly why the smart money is already locking in positions while everyone else chases hype and volatility elsewhere. Compliance-first crypto is the Trojan horse. This is the part that completely flips the crypto narrative on its head. While most projects are still shouting down with the system, hoping regulators will just look the other way, Stellar's been playing the long game. It's not fighting the establishment. It's quietly integrating with it. Stellar isn't trying to replace the financial system. It's becoming the upgrade layer beneath it. And the key to all of this? One acronym most crypto bros can't even spell. ISO 20022. That's the global messaging standard used by SWIFT, central banks, and financial institutions across 70-plus countries. And guess what? Stellar is natively compatible with it. That's not some future roadmap promise. It's already done. This means Stellar isn't some outsider hoping to be let in. It's a protocol built to speak the same language as the financial elite. It can plug directly into the rails that move trillions of dollars every day. And that's a game changer. You think regulators are going to greenlight blockchains that ignore compliance? Not a chance. When the hammer drops, and it's dropping hard, most DeFi chains and off-the-books protocols are going to hit walls. But Stellar? It's already in the room where decisions are being made. Let's look at the receipts. Stellar partnered with the Ukrainian government for a CBDC pilot. That's a sovereign nation experimenting with digital currency issuance using Stellar's tech. Not Ethereum. Not Solana. Stellar. Stellar and Circle work together to expand USDC liquidity across Stellar's network, with fiat on-ramps and off-ramps integrated via MoneyGram in over 100 countries. Palago Labs, built on Stellar and Soroban, is tokenizing trade finance in a fully compliant structure. This isn't shadow DeFi. It's real-world financial infrastructure, backed by KYC, AML, and regulatory safeguards. Why do all these major players feel comfortable building on Stellar? Simple, because Stellar doesn't scare regulators. It doesn't try to dodge oversight or hide behind decentralization theater. It's designed for transparency, compliance, and interoperability from the ground up. This is what makes Stellar a Trojan horse. While everyone's distracted by meme tokens and vaporware DeFi, Stellar is walking through the gates of the traditional financial system, not as a threat, but as a solution. And here's the kicker. All of this activity, all this compliant infrastructure, all these real-world integrations, they require XLM to function. It's the asset that facilitates liquidity. It's the asset that enables cross-border movement. It's the asset that's woven into every operation on the network. When the next wave of institutional adoption hits, it won't be about what's trendy, it'll be about what's compliant, what's scalable, what fits within the regulatory frameworks already in place. And when that time comes, Stellar won't need to make the case. It'll already be the default pick. Because while the loudest voices in crypto chase rebellion, the smartest protocols are building bridges. And Stellar is the bridge everyone's going to end up walking across. And every step of that journey requires XLM. Quiet accumulation. The smart money signal. Let's be brutally honest. Most retail investors are addicted to price action. If something's not pumping, they think it's dead. But that's not how the smart money plays the game. Because smart money, it doesn't chase green candles. It front-runs utility. While the average speculator scrolls through meme charts and TikTok influencers, the people who actually move markets are studying fundamentals, watching developer activity, tracking wallet growth, and, most importantly, buying when no one else is paying attention. And that's exactly what's happening with XLM right now. Here's what the data shows. Wallet creation is accelerating. New accounts on Stellar are growing steadily, not in spikes driven by hype, but in a healthy, sustained curve, meaning real adoption, not temporary mania. Exchange balances are declining. XLM is flowing out of exchanges and into self-custody wallets. That's classic accumulation behavior. When people plan to sell, they keep tokens on exchanges. When they plan to hold, they move it off. Developer activity is ramping up. Soroban smart contracts are seeing increasing deployment. Palago Labs isn't just testing, they're live. Hyperlane's integration means Stellar is now bridging into the broader multi-chain ecosystem. This isn't noise, it's a signal. Because every time Stellar is used for USDC remittances, cross-border payments, or smart contract execution, XLM is the fuel. Let's not forget, XLM supply is capped. No inflation. No new coins being printed to dilute your holdings. In fact, the Stellar network has already burned over 50 billion XLM. An intentional move that permanently reduced total supply. Let that sink in. 50 billion tokens gone. That's not just a burn. That's a statement. And it sets up one of the most powerful supply/demand dynamics in all of crypto. Because while the available supply is shrinking, real-world use cases are exploding. MoneyGram's fiat ramps, running on Stellar rails. CBDC pilots, powered by Stellar Tech. Trade finance tokenization, anchored by Stellar smart contracts. All of this is happening quietly, beneath the surface, while attention stays locked on Bitcoin ETFs and Ethereum gas spikes. And here's the part most people completely overlook. As Stellar continues to integrate with compliant infrastructure, institutional money will eventually need exposure to the native asset that runs the network. That asset is XLM. So what do you think happens when supply is fixed and declining, demand is utility-driven and compounding, and the market still hasn't priced it in? Creates a compression chamber, one where price doesn't move until it explodes. This isn't hopium, it's inevitability, because the real market movers, they're not waiting for CNBC headlines. They're not posting "I'm bullish" memes. They're accumulating, silently, strategically, relentlessly, and if you're paying attention, you'll realize this phase, the boring, overlooked, underpriced phase, is where wealth gets transferred. Not during the hype, before it. That's what's happening with XLM. This isn't a pump. It's a positioning. And the 1% who truly understand Stellar's design, its compliance framework, its global reach, they're not asking if XLM will go up. They're asking how much they can secure before the market catches on. Because once it does, game over. Why the world will wake up too late. So why doesn't everyone see this? Because infrastructure never gets attention until it becomes impossible to ignore. Nobody talked about TCP, IP protocols in the 90s. Nobody celebrated Visa's back-end architecture. But when you build the rails for global value transfer, your impact shows up long after the foundation is laid. And that's what Stellar is doing. Right now. Quietly. Systematically. It's becoming the plumbing of a new financial system, where fiat, stablecoins, and digital assets flow seamlessly, instantly, and cheaply across borders. No middlemen. No 5-day settlement windows. No 10% remittance fees. Just pure, efficient, programmable value transfer. The headlines may be focused on meme coins and ETF approvals, but in the background, Stellar is partnering with MoneyGram to onboard cash-to-crypto users globally, powering Soroban smart contracts that meet real-world regulatory needs, enabling governments to pilot CBDCs in production-ready environments, tokenizing real assets from trade finance instruments to debt markets. These aren't vaporware projects. They're live, they're scaling, and they're all silently increasing reliance on the Stellar network and, by extension, XLM. But here's the kicker. The public won't wake up until a Fortune 100 company launches a product that uses Stellar under the hood, or until a major central bank launches a CBDC with Soroban, or until XLM does a 3x overnight, and by then it's no longer early. Retail will FOMO in after the opportunity has passed. That's how this always goes. By the time CNBC or Bloomberg starts mentioning XLM again, the smart money will already be deep in profit. The builders will already have finished the hard part. And the 1% who understood what Stellar was actually doing will already be sitting on life-changing gains. Because while the crowd chased hype, they focused on fundamentals. And now, the foundation is set. The infrastructure is ready. The integrations are live. So when the world finally realizes what Stellar built, it won't be an investment anymore. It'll be a regret. If you're still watching, you're not average. You're already ahead of the curve. You're not chasing hype. You're chasing signal. And you're starting to understand what most of the market won't until it's too late. Now it's up to you. Will you be part of the 1% that understands what's coming and acts early? Or will you be stuck wondering how you missed it? Watching XLM Moon while you scramble to catch up? If this opened your eyes, smash that like button. If you're done with recycled narratives and meme pumps, and you want real strategy, real analysis, and real infrastructure plays, subscribe to the channel. We cover what the mainstream ignores. We focus on what actually matters. Let the world sleep on XLM. Let them joke, dismiss, and delay. While you position, while you accumulate, while you build conviction before the headlines catch up. This is where generational wealth starts, not in the mania, but in the silence before it. See you in the next one. Stay smart. Stay early. Be crypto smart.